Hello, my name is Mary Mindshine, and this is Law Presentation for ADM 672 at Murray State University. I chose the topic of drug testing for nurse aid clinicals because this is actually something that I've had to deal with. I teach at Ballard County CTC, and my pathway for career and technical education is health science. So the capstone for our pathway is Medicaid nurse aid. Medicaid nurse aid is a junior-senior elective. It is also offered dual credit at the KCTCS system. The class code is NAA 100. So the purpose is for students to go through the training and then be able to sit for their state registered nurse aid, what you would probably call certified nurse aid. It requires a minimum of 16 clinical hours and then 75 classroom hours. We get more than 75 classroom hours in the high school setting. In the college setting, they literally take this class for 8 weeks. In the classroom at high school, we're a year long or either 2 blocks for a semester. The 16-hour clinicals have to take place in an approved Medicaid long-term care setting. This came from OBRA of 1987. That's a federal law that was passed for the quality of life for our elderly residents. Currently, our clinical site has started to require that before I can bring students to their site for clinicals, they have to have a negative drug test. In the past, high school students weren't required to do that unless the clinical site required it. We run into the problems of the laws with the high school students being under 18 and things like that. If these students go and take this at the college level, they would have been required to have that drug testing within 4 days of their first day of class. So it's a little different setting. In the high school, we still fall under the same rules as WKCTC. We just have to make a little bit of adjustment for the high school setting. However, we are finding that our clinical sites are requiring more and more that students have a negative drug test. So we know in our classroom that we talked about the KRS requirements, a couple of requirements for KRS in order to drug test. First of all, random for extracurriculars, that's common, and then reasonable suspicion. Those are 2 reasons. Our site-based decision-making and board policies say, just like KRS, random drug testing is required for all extracurricular activities. This includes any clubs or sports. And then testing has to be performed by an outside agency, and the school nurses do not perform drug testing. So what I did, first of all, this is my first year in this district, and I do know that the teacher last year was a little bit taken by surprise by her clinical site requiring drug testing. So it wasn't something she had planned on, and then she was in the middle of the year scrambling to get something in order. So what I did early in the school year is, first of all, I indicated that a drug test would be required of the students. I wasn't sure what it was going to look like yet, but on the syllabus I put that it would be required and that more information would come as it was available. Students and parents both had to sign that syllabus. I also emailed my administration to find out how to handle drug testing. Because once again, required clinicals is not extracurricular, it's required, it's part of the curriculum. So as the clinical dates approach, some of the things that I did is I asked the school nurse what testing looked like last year, because the students were telling me that last year's students went to the school nurse's office and got their drug testing. This is when I found out that school nurses don't do the drug testing, and my boss, who is also my husband, well, he's not my direct boss, but higher up, also was not happy with teachers doing drug testing, even if they're nurses and they're able to do that in the clinical setting. Because some of the other schools, that's what they do. The teachers actually purchase the drug kits and perform it on the students themselves. There was a concern with my administration about that. So I asked the school nurse what testing looked like last year, and I also contacted my clinical site because I was hoping that somebody from their staff would be willing and able to come to the school and perform the drug test. And it turns out that that is what happened. Their education director was able to take a couple of days, and she came here and coordinated. So I purchased the urine drug test kits. I used fees that were in our class fee funds. Scheduled use of the nurse's office, and that education director was able to come and meet the kids, do their drug testing. Everybody had a negative drug test, so it was a good turnout. And I also got their facility into our building and established a little bit of a liaison and communication that wasn't there before, so it was good. I also printed permission slips. I mailed them to the home and sent them home with students, so there was nobody who could say, I didn't get it, I didn't know about it. I printed some generic documents that could be completed by the tester. Drug test results forms are online, and you can fit them to your own needs. So that's what I did. So going forward, what I will do, I need to look at how other schools are doing their testing, because they're all in the same boat. We have more and more clinical sites saying we won't let your students come here unless we have a negative drug test on file. And so more and more schools are having to look at how to implement this. And also I want to continue to communicate with my administration and the clinical facility so that we establish those lines of communication that were established, stay healthy. And that is all I have. This is one of my groups of students that went to clinicals with me. Remember, we needed 16 hours, excuse me. We finished 8 of the required 16 hours before the Life Care Center had to close its doors for visitors due to COVID-19. Students across the state and country are unable to test for their industry certification because they're unable to complete their clinical hours. So keep these kids in your hearts. They're waiting to hear how are they going to complete their hours. They have to take an incomplete in their class as their grade until those hours are finished, or until somebody makes an exception to the rule. Thank you for your attention.